Welcome to our online course, Rebuilding a Blue Economy Post-COVID-19, New Challenges, Recovery Measures, and Resilience. I'm Abu Jumbe, your course director for UNIDAP. Module 2, Steps in Blue Economy Policy Development and Implementation in Africa. This module follows a step-by-step guide developed by UNECA in 2016 to assist countries develop and implement the Blue Economy policy or strategy at the national level. There are 7 key steps that have been designed to assist policymakers and stakeholders at the national level when the decision to go for a sustainable Blue Economy framework is reached. Step 1 involves agenda setting, awareness, sensitization. Step 2 involves coordination in formulating the Blue Economy policy. Step 3 involves building national ownership for the formulation process. Step 4 involves sector identification and prioritization. Step 5 involves designing the Blue Economy policy. Step 6 involves policy implementation, and the final step involves monitoring and evaluation or M&E framework. So this module will highlight key components of each step that are involved in developing a model Blue Economy policy. Step 1, agenda setting, awareness, and sensitization. This is the first step in formulating a model Blue Economy policy. It is composed of the following levels of engagement. There has to be a highest level of political support in a country. There has to be an understanding, knowledge, resources, human and natural capital. There has to be a development and updating of a multi-sectoral diagnostic analysis to address existing baseline about the Blue Economy, a policy dialogue and awareness raising on Blue Economy at the national level, development and dissemination of a synthesis report, development of a representative, refined and reflective white paper document to garner highest political support for the implementation of the outcome of the policy dialogue process. Communicating a sense of urgency, preparation of the initial white paper. A white paper may be required as an initial step for setting the agenda and raising the necessary levels of awareness and sensitization about the Blue Economy. The white paper could be the vehicle to communicate a sense of urgency to act on pressing issues and emerging opportunities. It could serve to communicate the challenges that lack of action could precipitate. It may address key issues pertaining to the need to develop a Blue Economy policy formulation for the country. Key issues in the white paper could include maritime boundaries issues, continental shelf, IUU fishing, maritime security, oil and gas, tourism, or maritime and interlinked transport system, and many more. Another area in this tab is about knowing your resources. It is crucial to have a good understanding of the Blue Economy resource base, including natural and human capital. There is the need to undertake an extensive resource mapping exercise in both the aquatic and marine environments. This would also require an assessment of prevailing knowledge base, identifying gaps and needs, and establishing both internal and external partnerships. It is important that dedicated research and development on blue economy, science to policy matters, as well as technology transfer, are crucial at this stage. An ideal blue economy policy, therefore, is the one that is developed through a blend of scientific and policy dialogue process. Another key aspect in this step is organizing policy dialogue and awareness-raising meetings. Policy dialogues based on the background white paper should follow, and these could assist in fostering participation, inclusion, and consensus building from the inception stage of the policy formulation process. The policy dialogue ideally should be launched by the highest possible level of political representation, example, a head of state or a prime minister. This is essential to rally political will and commitment, especially from different government departments. The dialogue should include a wide array of representative stakeholder groups from across the spectrum. Another key aspect in step 1 is refining the initial white paper to reflect the emerging consensus. The white paper should need to be a living document adjusted at different stages of the consultative process. This would help to reflect the emerging consensus and to capture the evolving and dynamic nature of the issues as they emerge from a better understanding and awareness of the blue economy. Continuously sharing of the updated versions of the white paper with all stakeholders is a good practice to continue to build consensus and reflect current positions. Another key aspect of step 1 is updating existing baseline information on blue economy. A regular update of baseline information in such key blue economy sectors as fisheries, maritime transport, ocean and seabed mining, energy resources development, and others would be helpful. Updating will flag key issues in a manner that would allow new ideas and perspectives to be incorporated throughout the policy formulation process. A periodic assessment of country key issues, challenges, opportunities, and requirements could help maintain the momentum of policy discussions around the blue economy. Preparation and dissemination of synthesis report. Following the initial consultative stages, it is important to communicate the consensus obtained and prepare and disseminate synthesis reports in a timely fashion. Synthesis reports should capture the key issues raised in the consultative discussions, the relevant challenges and opportunities identified, and the next steps identified. Synthesis reports provide the most important follow-up actions toward the next step of the policy formulation process. Step 2. Coordinating formulation of the blue economy policy. This is the second step in formulating a model blue economy policy. This stage is mainly concerning the establishment of a national institution empowered under the national laws and policies to implement the blue economy policy formulation process. 3 key criteria of consideration are required while developing and establishing that institution: authority and independence of that institution, inclusiveness, full participation and representation of all key sectors in that institution, clear functions related to the implementation of the policy formulation process. Principles of leading coordination. The organ responsible for coordinating the entire process should be vested with sufficient convening authority, resources, and operational independence. the legitimacy of the body can be strengthened if it is constituted in an inclusive and representative manner. Ability and mandate established through a legislative act by government or parliament is another key requirement for the leading coordination. It is particularly important to ensure that the views and perspectives of all stakeholders are considered in decision-making process. Functions of the Blue Economy Coordinating Body. The formulation of the Blue Economy policy would necessitate the establishment of an interministerial, intersectoral Blue Economy Policy Committee. The functions of the coordinating body could include, but not be limited to, the following aspects: coordinating, communicating, and facilitating policy-making processes, removing the barriers and providing guidance in the development and implementation of the policy, proposing key performance indicators and related milestones and timelines, building partnerships and creating linkages, commissioning public comments and feedback, re-evaluating and adjusting the policy as required, reviewing and monitoring the policy implementation. Possible scenarios for the lead institution for coordination. Due consideration should be given to the choice of which institution should lead the Blue Economy policy formulation process. Ideally, this should be at the highest level of government. Of essence is the need to ensure a bird's-eye view and equal treatment of all the sectors of the Blue Economy. Step 3. Coordinating formulation of the Blue Economy policy. This is the third step in formulating a model Blue Economy policy. For the Blue Economy policy formulation to be effective, national and cross-sectoral ownership of the process is a critical requirement. Ownership of the agenda, the process, and the policy would foster internalization of the framework and implementation of the policy. The following are key steps to ensure ownership: consensus building, stakeholder communications, stakeholder engagement, empowerment of key actors, building of a new Blue Economy culture. Stakeholder engagement. The quality of the multi-stakeholder consultative process is critical. The multi-stakeholder process should result in an alignment of different points of view and understanding of the opportunities and challenges. Key to success is the need to undertake a comprehensive mapping of all potential interest groups. This could include policymakers at all levels, civil society, local community groups, the private sector, labor, media, and other parties. The different values and understanding of the benefit streams of the Blue Economy for each stakeholder group must be identified clearly. Empowerment of key actors. Empowering the key actors in the Blue Economy policy formulation process is important to build ownership. To achieve this, public institutions must collect, store, update, and disseminate all relevant information in a transparent and timely manner. In addition, private operators should be regularly involved in addressing environmental and social impacts and safeguards of their activities. The ability to align different views and perspectives into a shared vision would dictate the success of the policy formulation process. Building of a Blue Economy culture. Operationalizing the Blue Economy requires a mindset change based on a holistic and integrative approach to spatial economic planning and development. The process of formulating the Blue Economy policy would benefit from a concerted effort of sensitization and awareness raising for all stakeholders in order to build a culture of new ways of thinking. The consultative process and engagement with media, including social media, can be useful in this effort. Step 4. Sector identification and prioritization. This is the fourth step in formulating a model Blue Economy policy. The policy framework should address all relevant sectors while identifying high priority sectors for that country. This process should be methodical and objective, based on analysis of the relative comparative and competitive advantage of each sector. The outcome would need to go through consultation to ensure proper selection validation. Step 5. Designing the Blue Economy policy. This is the fifth step in formulating a model Blue Economy policy. It comprises of the following aspects: policy, regulatory, and reform issues, scenario building, high-level launch of the Blue Economy policy to ensure high-level political support and buy-in, institutional capacity and skills, timelines, and milestones. In the aspect of policy, regulatory, and reform issues, the development of the Blue Economy policy and its subsequent implementation requires a framework for implementation and regulation. The body of information could serve as a resource base for the development of new laws or the reform of existing laws. In cases where the prevailing institutional frameworks may not be conducive to the successful development of the Blue Economy, reforms may also be required. The policy formulation process should include consultation in order to outline the nature of regulatory and reform recommendations that could potentially emerge. Scenario building. The Blue Economy framework would provide scenarios of desired development outcomes utilizing integrated cross-sectoral and pragmatic approaches. Such scenarios should include baseline conditions and progressive implementation of the strategies and policies. They could also serve as an incentive for implementation. High-level launch of the policy process. A high-level launch of the policy formulation process communicates political support, relevance, buy-in, and ownership right from the inception phase of the process. It is therefore important that the launch of the process can be organized at the highest level possible. Capacity and milestones. Analysis of institutional and skills capacity is essential in order to define key intervention areas within the policy. Institutional capacity and skills gap analysis tools can be utilized in this exercise. The policy framework needs to establish measurable milestones associated with timelines and requisite actions to achieve the milestones. The following can serve as considerations in setting the milestones and timelines: measurability of targets, measurability of performance towards targets, feasibility of the time spent to achieve the milestones, classification of targets by short, medium, and long-term time spans, resource requirements to meet milestones, and the ease of partnership building in pursuing those milestones. Step 6. Blue Economy policy implementation. This is the sixth step in formulating a model Blue Economy policy. It comprises of the following aspects: establishing institutional roles and functions for implementation, resource mobilization, and developing a plan of action. Establishing institutional roles. To guide the policy implementation process, the policy document must be clear about the roles and functions of implementing institutions. The allocation of roles would consider mandates and capacity of identified institutions to perform the assigned roles, non-duplication of roles and functions, modalities for joint roles and functions, accountability structure, and the possibility of synergy with existing institutional mandates. Resource mobilization. Financing the blue economy will be a challenge given its multidimensional and multisectoral nature and the scarcity of resources in the African states. In view of this, it will be important to prioritize their interventions and build their resource base accordingly. The policy document should provide an initial assessment of resource requirements. The roles of the public sector, private sector, development partners, and traditional and non-traditional financiers need to be articulated. Innovative resource mobilization opportunities, such as review of the tax regime, also need to be considered. The African Union 2050 Africa Integrated Maritime Strategy provides a resource strategy that could be used as a reference. Developing a plan of action. The Blue Economy policy, as part of the implementation modalities, needs to contain clear actions leading or contributing to measurable outcomes. The roles and responsibilities of the various stakeholders should be clearly identified, including careful consideration of capacity and resource mobilization. The plan could be organized into quick wins and medium to long-term strategic outcomes. Finally, Step 7, Monitoring and Evaluation. This is the seventh and final step in formulating a model blue economy policy. It comprises of the following aspects: developing a monitoring and evaluation framework and a periodic review. Developing a monitoring and evaluation framework. An effective monitoring and evaluation framework system should set out the roles and responsibilities of the relevant institutions. It would take into consideration contemporary methods and be based on, among other things, agreed indicators, time-bound action plans, implementation stage measurements, progress reporting frameworks, mechanisms for periodic review of M&E reports, evaluation accountability mechanisms. Periodic review of the implementation progress. Periodic review of progress is a useful tool in monitoring the degree of implementation of the set policy targets. The policy document needs to outline the structure and nature of the periodic review process, roles and functions of assigned institutions, follow-up mechanisms, and the nature of reporting. The document could contain suggestions for new interinstitutional periodic review mechanisms as required. The outcomes of the review should be made publicly available for subsequent comments and feedback. This reinforces the multi-stakeholder nature of the Blue Economy policy formulation process, strengthening ownership by all interested groups and helping to make adjustments as needed. So in summary, there should be a national vision and highest level of political support in formulating a blue economy policy. There should be an establishment of an inclusive national coordinating institution empowered under the national laws and policies. There should be ownership, consensus, and empowerment of key actors in policy formulation. There should be high-level launch of the policy formulation process. The policy document must be clear about the roles and functions of the implementing institutions, including mandates, modalities, and synergies. There should be monitoring and evaluation frameworks, policy implementation plan, with clear actions leading or contributing to measurable outcomes. Thank you.